Awaken to a life-changing morning, discover 7 hidden secrets to an incredible day. 20-25 in the sleepy town of Maplewood, a storm brewed behind Sarah's bakery doors. The sun barely kissed the horizon as she kneaded dough, her fingers aching but her heart resolute. Every morning's ritual was an exercise in resilience. 2 young faces, eager for breakfast and lunches packed with love, awaited the fruits of her labor. But their proud little smiles masked her fear. Would today be another struggle? The gossip mill churned, whispers filling the diner about Sarah's burdens. She's a single mom now, they said, their voices tinged with concern. How can she keep the bakery going? As the stories swirled, she felt the weight of her loss deeper than ever, that hollow space where her husband used to fill her life with laughter and security. He was gone, taken too soon, and now she stood alone, juggling the weight of the family legacy and the love for her kids. Then there was Rebecca, her childhood friend who strutted back into town with her dazzling success as a self-help guru. Her invitation to the seminar, Awaken to a Life-Changing Morning, felt like an anchor pulling Sarah under the waves of self-doubt. "You have potential, Sarah," Rebecca would say, her eyes sparkling with promise. But what would change if she followed the road laid out by someone else, especially when her own world felt so delicate? Could she abandon her family's pastry haven for the allure of modern mantras? Just as she wrestled with her options, the universe tossed her a lifeline. Jake. A veteran, too, fresh from battle but still burdened by shadows of the past. When they met, sparks flew, and suddenly Sarah had someone who understood the price of loss. They spent hours sharing stories over coffee, the warmth of connection igniting pieces of her heart long buried. Their bond wove together threads of confusion and hope. Jake's presence wrapped around her like a comforting embrace on a cold winter night. As the days blurred into chaos, Sarah attempted to weave Rebecca's teachings into her routine. Mornings were a rush of baking and cleaning, but now she added a splash of gratitude to her mornings. Yet with every new belief came new expectations, stretching her thin. Her kids sensed the tension and soon, playful laughter turned into quarreling. The delicate balance of their family felt threatened, and Sarah's best efforts seemed to unravel. Then came the Harvest Festival, where excitement and dread intertwined. When misunderstandings about veterans surfaced during a town meeting, the spotlight fell on Sarah. Would she remain silent, retreating into tradition? Or would she stoke the fire of change, facing the town that whispered behind her back? The air crackled with tension, and all eyes bore down on her. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With courage swelling in her chest, Sarah stepped into the fray, her voice shaking but her resolve steadfast. She realized in that moment of confrontation that the heart of Maplewood beat not just with tradition but with the memories of its people, their stories, their struggles. Would she craft a new narrative, one of strength and unity, or would she let the shadows of doubt close in around her? The town held its breath, waiting for the next chapter in their lives to unfold. The murmur of the crowd wrapped around Sarah like a thick fog. She faced the townsfolk, their eyes wide with expectation, her heart racing as the weight of their silence pressed against her. Panic flickered in her belly. What if her words failed to make the difference she dreamed of? But deep inside, a steady, persistent voice reminded her of everything she had endured, everything that had led her to this precise moment. "I may be just a baker," she started, her voice small but rising, "but I believe our stories matter. We carry each other's burdens, and together, we rise." The tension hung heavy in the air. A few heads nodded, others shifted uncomfortably. Would they let her break the chains of doubt, or would they cling to their whispered concerns? "There are veterans in our community," she continued, her voice gaining strength, "who sacrificed so much. They have stories to tell, and we must listen. I know we've all been hurt by the past, by loss. She choked back tears, recalling Jake's weary smile and the way that understanding ignited hope within her. I refuse to let fear dictate our future. Instead, let us embrace the change. Maplewood can be a beacon. Just then, she caught Rebecca's gaze from the corner of her eye, her friend's face a mix of pride and surprise. This was not the timid woman who had wrestled with self-doubt just a few weeks ago. Sarah took a breath, allowing the air to fill her lungs. With every pulse of adrenaline, she felt the weight lift from her shoulders. As if propelled by her words, the crowd began to stir. A woman, older and with sorrow etched into her skin, stood up, her voice trembling. I lost my son last year in service. It's been so hard. The vulnerability in her tone resonated, as other voices began to rise up, adding their grief, their memories, and their hopes. Jake stood among the spectators, a proud smile breaking through his usual solemnity. He was a veteran, too, and his eyes sparkled with something Sarah had hoped for, the possibility of healing, of community found in the pain. I hear you, he called out, stepping forward. We're not alone in this, none of us. His words rang true, wrapping the room in communal warmth. Sarah couldn't help but smile through her tears, a remarkable strength surging through her as she remembered the laughter of her children. There was no turning back now. The confrontation had sparked something deep within the town, and for the first time in a long while, hope began to glimmer like sunlight after a storm. They spoke, shared their burdens, and discovered that vulnerability did not signify weakness but massive strength. As the meeting wound down, Sarah felt as if a monumental shift had occurred within her. She had stepped into the light of her truth and, in doing so, ignited a spark in others. She was not just a baker anymore, she was a leader, a keeper of stories and a voice for change. The festival approached with newfound momentum, and Sarah knew she wasn't just preparing for a celebration, she was poised to uplift her town. Yet, lingering doubts flickered at the edges of her thoughts. Would she be able to carry this momentum forward amidst the noise of critics and the wounds that still needed healing? As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden hue across Maplewood, she whispered her hopes into the universe. This was just the beginning, a path to something bigger. If she could face the fears that clung to the past, perhaps her journey would inspire so many others. What would they uncover together? As she walked home that night with Jake by her side, both strangely intertwined with the emotional tapestry of their community, a new question settled in her heart: were they ready to tackle the challenges of tomorrow together? Because one thing was certain, the calm after the storm was often the true test of resilience. The morning light spilled into Sarah's kitchen, warm and golden, painting everything in soft hues. She moved with purpose, her fingers dancing over dough as she prepared for the festival. The scent of fresh bread filled her space, a comfort that eased her restless heart. The festival wasn't just about showcasing her baked goods anymore, it was a chance to prove that her community could rise stronger together. This thought propelled her forward, yet a part of her remained restless, shadowed by doubt. As she kneaded the bread, her mind wandered to the gathering from the night before. The intensity of emotions shared, the way people finally opened up, it felt monumental. Yet, the weight of expectations pressed on her. What if they turned back? What if she couldn't deliver? She winced at the thought, her heart quaking at the prospect of failure. Sarah. Jake's voice interrupted her thoughts, gentle yet steady. He stood at the doorway, leaning against the frame with a knowing smile. You've got the spark, you know. I don't want to let them down, Jake, she replied, letting her hands fall to her sides, flour rising into the air. What if they expect too much? You're being too hard on yourself, he said, stepping closer. You gave them hope. Hope is powerful, Sarah. Just look at how many spoke last night. His eyes sparkled with pride, igniting something within her. As the sun climbed higher, she continued baking, her tasks a rhythm that felt familiar and safe. Within the chaos of the day, Rebecca arrived, bursting in with a contagious energy. The festival stalls were starting to come together in the town square, colorful banners swaying lightly in the breeze. Look! They're all buzzing about it. Rebecca exclaimed, her excitement bubbling over. It's not just about the food, it's the stories. Everyone wants to be part of this change. Sarah's heart fluttered at her friend's words. Perhaps this wasn't just her journey after all. Maybe this was about something bigger, about a community healing together. But just then, a shadow flickered in her mind. Thoughts of Mr. Thompson, the town's naysayer, loomed large. Always rigorous in his disapproval, he had often belittled and doubted any attempts at unity. Would he stir the pot and discourage everyone? Are we ready for him? Sarah asked, her voice slightly trembling. Rebecca rolled her eyes playfully. Let him try. We have stories now. We're a team. A deep breath surged through Sarah as a small smile began to appear. As she and Rebecca finalized their plans, the excitement in the air was infectious, but the uncertainty was still there, lurking. Arriving at the town square, Sarah felt the collective energy. The merging of hope and shared struggles was tangible. Families and friends began to gather, laughter punctuating their conversations. Merchants were setting up booths, and children dashed around, chattering with joy. Sarah caught sight of Jake, standing with veterans, their camaraderie a testament to resilience. She felt the warmth of community encircle her like a protective embrace, yet deep down, she still wrestled with the fear of dissenting voices, that doubt creeping back in. The festival was meant to shine a light, but shadows often lingered. Are we really ready for what lies ahead? She whispered to herself, a mix of excitement and anxiety welling up within her. As the festivities kicked off, the first few moments felt like a tightrope walk, balancing hope with trepidation. Perhaps this was the true test. Would the darkness that typically loomed hold its ground, or would the light of their stories burst forth and change everything? And then, just when Sarah thought she had it all figured out, a familiar voice broke through the noise. I have something to say. The crowd turned, and there stood Mr. Thompson, a skeptical look on his face. Sarah's breath hitched. What would he uncover that day? The crowd held its breath. The air shifted, almost crackling with tension as Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. He was an imposing figure, his voice steady but laced with the authority of a man used to being taken seriously. Sarah felt her heart race, the weight of his skepticism settling heavy in her chest. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, his gaze sweeping across the gathering. I've listened to the chatter, the cheer, and it all sounds lovely. But let us not get lost in this fantasy. Sarah's mind swirled. What was he going to say? Would he shatter the fragile hope they had built? Hope can be a dangerous thing, he continued, his words slow and deliberate. It can blind us to what is really happening around us. Gasps echoed through the crowd. A ripple of worry passed between the townspeople, faces turning pale. Mr. Thompson, if I may. Sarah felt courage bloom within her as she stepped forward. Her voice came out stronger than she expected. Hope isn't blind. It's what binds us. We've stood apart for too long. This festival is about coming together. He raised an eyebrow, taken aback. And how does baking bread fix our problems? The bread is a symbol, just like this festival, she said, her hands trembling but determined. It represents our willingness to share, to listen, to grow. It's not about ignoring the past, it's about facing it together. A murmur of approval erupted from the crowd. Sarah felt the tide shift, their collective hope rising in small waves. She hadn't realized how powerful her words could be until that moment. But Mr. Thompson wasn't finished. And what of our disagreements? Our differences? Differences make us stronger, Rebecca added, stepping forward. It's about learning from one another. We can't just throw away what we don't like. The crowd was with them, nodding, murmuring in agreement. Sarah's heart soared. Maybe this unity was possible after all. Maybe you've got a point, Mr. Thompson said, his tone slightly softer. But it's going to take more than words. You need to show us what you mean. Then join us. Be part of it. Sarah urged, her voice rising with excitement. Let us share stories today, not just food. Let us celebrate what makes us unique while finding common ground. The atmosphere shifted again, hope crackled like fireworks in the air. The crowd began to clap, cheers rising like a wave. Mr. Thompson looked stunned, his stern demeanor slipping just a bit. "I'll consider it," he said, turning away. The ambiguity of his words lingered, but they felt like a crack of light in the darkness. The crowd erupted with renewed energy. People were laughing, spinning tales, and connecting in ways Sarah hadn't anticipated. Children ran through the stalls, adults gathered to share experiences all the while, a sense of unity began to solidify. "See? We can do this!" Rebecca exclaimed, full of spirit. "You set the right tone, Sarah." Sarah felt a swell of pride but also apprehension. The day was still far from over, and Mr. Thompson remained a shadow in the back of her mind. Would he truly embrace change, or was this just a flicker before the darkness returned? As the festival continued, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of fragile truce resting on the edge of uncertainty. What other obstacles might surface? Was Mr. Thompson truly ready to rebuild with them, or would he retreat back into his shadows? With each moment unfolding, Sarah realized that not everyone shared their vision of hope, and the road ahead would be filled with challenges. She took a deep breath, sensing that the true test lay ahead. Just as the sun began to dip behind the trees, illuminating the sky in vibrant oranges and purples, a new voice called out from the crowd. "Wait, I have something to contribute too." As Sarah turned, her pulse quickened. Who else was stepping forward, and what would it mean for their journey? The crowd shifted, curiosity sparking in the air. Sarah's heart raced again. What new voice could be emerging from within the people she had come to care for so deeply? It was Felix, a quiet man known for his craftsmanship more than his words. He often kept to himself, spending his days carving beautiful pieces of wood. Sarah felt a mix of hope and anxiety, her gut twisting at what he might say. "Go on, Felix," she encouraged, stepping back to give him the space he needed. He cleared his throat, his hands fidgeting against his work apron. "I've been thinking about what you said, Sarah, about coming together." His voice was soft, but it echoed in the charged space. "There is something about our differences, they can make us feel isolated, but they can also inspire us." The crowd leaned in closer, tension morphing into intrigue. Felix continued, pulling from his heart. "I lost my daughter last year. She loved to bake. She used to say that every loaf of bread mattered because it brought people joy." A few gasps rippled through the audience. Tears threatened to spill from Sarah's eyes. She hadn't realized how deeply the loss affected him. Felix took a breath, composing himself. "When I saw the dough rising today, it reminded me of how resilient we can be. Just like that dough, we can adapt and grow if we let ourselves be shaped by our hands and hearts by each other." His sincerity struck a chord, and the crowd erupted in encouraging applause, a wave of connection washing over them. "Let us honor these stories." Rebecca stepped beside Felix, her eyes bright with emotion. "Let us share not just the bread, but the memories that shape us." Sarah felt warmth radiate through her, binding them all together. In that moment, she understood love could transform grief into strength, and vulnerability into unity. But just as the atmosphere seemed lifted, Sarah caught sight of Mr. Thompson hanging back, slipping into the shadows. His brow furrowed as if contemplating whether to join in or retreat from their collective hope. "Felix," Sarah said, wanting to keep the momentum alive, "will you share a recipe? A way for us to come together over what your daughter loved?" Felix nodded, his eyes shining. "Yes, I think that could bring us all a little closer. I'd love nothing more." As Felix began to share his daughter's recipe, Sarah noticed Mr. Thompson again, his resolve visibly cracking. He stood at the edge, torn between skepticism and the overwhelming pull of community spirit that had ignited throughout the festival. Bathed in the warm light of the late afternoon sun, a fragile hope wrapped around them, shimmering amid laughter and tears. Yet, Sarah couldn't ignore the uncomfortable tension that still hovered. They had made progress, yes, but would Mr. Thompson really change? Would he take a step forward and join this journey? Just then, a sudden commotion arose at the far end of the festival. The laughter turned into gasps as a familiar face emerged from the crowd. Someone Sarah hadn't expected to see. Her pulse quickened again. What are they doing here? As the crowd diverted their attention, Sarah felt a new wave of concern wash over her. Who had arrived, and what could it mean for their hope? Was it a blessing or a storm? The sound of murmurs rippled through the crowd like a summer breeze turning sudden and sharp. Sarah squinted, the late afternoon sun casting a soft glow around the silhouette that had appeared. It was Laura, her old neighbor, who had moved away almost a year ago. Right behind her, a familiar figure followed Mike, the estranged brother Sarah had all but given up on contacting. What are they doing here? The words slipped from Sarah's lips before she could hold them back. There was a mix of exhilaration and dread bubbling in her chest. Laura hadn't just moved out, she'd left town without a word. And Mike? Why hadn't he reached out? As they approached, the crowd seemed to part like waves around them, drawing Sarah's attention almost instinctively. She fought through the heat simmering in her veins, trying to gauge their intentions. Laura's eyes were wide, darting around. Mike moved with purpose, his gaze solid and steady, yet Sarah could see the uncertainty lurking beneath. Sarah, Laura called out, her voice tentative. I hoped I could find you today. The crowd seemed to fade into the background, their conversations mere whispers. Sarah's heart raced, a cacophony of emotions swirling within her, but she forced herself to stay calm, to be the center amidst the storm brewing inside. Why didn't you say anything before? Laura stepped closer, glancing at Mike before meeting Sarah's eyes. I didn't know how she hesitated, and Sarah sensed the weight of unspoken words tethering her friend. She could feel the curiosity of those gathered around them, the hunger for connection and clarity. What had kept Laura from reaching out? I heard about the festival and I thought it might be a chance for new beginnings, Laura confessed, her voice breaking slightly. Felix, who had just finished sharing his daughter's recipe, was now watching with keen interest. The warmth from the crowd that had filled the air seemed to be eclipsed momentarily by the tension between Sarah and her friend. And you brought him? Sarah gestured at Mike, the history of their family hanging thick between them like an invisible wall. How could you? After everything? Mike stepped forward, his face a mixture of regret and determination. I came here to apologize. For everything. I thought I'd lost you both forever. Sarah felt the heat of anger flare within her, but amid that burning frustration lay an unexpected flicker of hope. You really mean that? But before Mike could respond, the collective gaze of the crowd shifted once more, this time toward Mr. Thompson. He seemed to have stepped slightly out of the shadows. Oddly, his expression was softer, almost contemplative. Sarah's breath caught. Was he considering stepping into their circle of vulnerability, searching for reconciliation just like Mike? A rising murmur began as people exchanged looks, processing the unfolding drama. Would Mr. Thompson really bring changes to his own heart? Was Laura and Mike's arrival meant to remind Sarah of the importance of forgiveness, even when it's hard to give? In that moment, Sarah felt the gravity of her community around her, the intertwined fates of everyone standing on the threshold of something profound. Each face held a story, a piece of the larger tapestry they were beginning to weave together. Let's start fresh. Felix proposed from the side, his voice resonating with a newfound energy. We can all lighten our burdens together. As the crowd began to show tentative smiles, Sarah found herself caught between the past and what could be. She locked eyes with Mike one last time, searching for the depth of sincerity in his gaze, her heart racing with a mix of doubt and anticipation, and just as Sarah opened her mouth to respond, a sudden loud crash echoed across the festival grounds. Frantic whispers erupted, bringing with it an unexpected energy that swept through the crowd like wildfire. What now? She thought, feeling the flicker of uncertainty dance anew in her chest. Would this be a challenge they all needed to face together, or would it tear them apart? The crashing sound reverberated in Sarah's ears, sending a wave of panic coursing through her. The crowd, which had just begun to soften and unite, was now a mass of bodies shifting and murmuring in confusion. Eyes darted everywhere, searching for the source of the ruckus. What was that? Laura asked, her voice shaking slightly. Maybe it was just a falling sign, Mike suggested, but even he sounded unsure. Or something worse, Sarah murmured. Her heart hammered in her chest as she felt the tension rise again, straining against the warmth of potential reconciliation moments before. Gathering her courage, Sarah stepped forward, pushing through the throng of spectators. Everyone, stay calm. She called out, seeking to restore some order. But inside, doubt gnawed at her. What if this was a warning? As she reached the edge of the crowd, Sarah's eyes fell on a fallen booth from the concession area, its colorful banner lying crumpled on the ground. The scattered chips and drinks rolled precariously, creating a tiny chaotic scene amidst the festival. Nearby, workers rushed to assess the situation, their hurried movements highlighting the urgency of the moment. Just a booth. Someone yelled from the back, but nervous laughter bubbled up around Sarah. It didn't seem quite funny. Straining to see beyond the direction of the fallen stall, she felt an odd sensation creeping up in her chest. The festival had always been a cherished gathering place, yet now its chaotic backdrop felt foreign, almost haunting. As Sarah turned back, she caught Mike's concerned gaze lingering on her. How was it possible that he could still make her feel so torn apart? The whispers continued to ripple through the crowd, their murmurs filled with speculation about what might happen next. Would this sudden disruption disrupt the fragile peace that had begun to take shape? Suddenly, a child's cry pierced the discord and raised the hair on the back of Sarah's neck. Mom! Mom! The voice was small and frantic, all too familiar in the midst of unnatural unease. The crowd shifted, revealing a small boy looking for someone, tears streaming down his cheeks. Where is your mother? Sarah sidled closer, kneeling to make her presence less intimidating. I don't know. I lost her. He wailed, burying his face in his hands. She felt a tug at her heart. As quiet panic surged around them, something deep within Sarah spurred her into action. She glanced back at Laura and Mike, their faces marshalling a mix of concern and determination. Let us help him find her, Sarah said, her voice steady and filled with sudden clarity. This is our community. We can't let fear win tonight. Laura nodded rapidly, then turned to Mike, her expression fierce. You're in this too. Let us split up and check the concessions. With a decisive nod, Mike stepped forward, and together, they formed a small search party, forging a path through the anxious crowd. As they moved, Sarah felt a strange sense of bonding, as if their shared purpose could weave a tether between their strained past and a potential future. With new resolve lighting a fire within her, Sarah led the way. As they combed through the rows of booths, calling out the mother's name, there was a sense that perhaps this moment of crisis could become a step toward healing. But as they reached the far end of the festival grounds, Sarah spotted a flickering shadow retreating into an alleyway. Her heart dropped. Wait! She shouted, adrenaline kicking in. Was it the missing mother? Or was it someone else waiting to create more chaos? Determined, she ran toward the shadow. Would they find a resolution, or was something darker hiding in the wings? As Sarah bounded toward the alley, the sounds of the festival faded into a distant hum. The adrenaline coursed through her, each step quickening her heartbeat. The flickering shadow danced along the damp alley walls, like a flickering candle teasing her curiosity and fear. Sarah! Laura called from a few steps behind, worry threading through her tone. But Sarah didn't turn around. She couldn't. The urgency consumed her, her sole focus narrowing on that elusive figure disappearing into the darkness. Stay close. Mike urged, his voice close behind. What if it's dangerous? I have to find out, Sarah replied, breathless. It could be the boy's mom. The alley was narrow and dim, the faint scent of wet pavement mixing with hints of popcorn and cotton candy from the festival. Sarah pressed forward, her eyes straining to catch a glimpse of where the flickering shadow had gone. Was it just a trick of the light or someone trying to escape? Each possibility rushed through her mind, tangled with uncertainty. As they neared the end of the alley, a figure suddenly came into view, a woman, crouched down, her hand cradling a small bundle. Relief washed over Sarah like a cool breeze when she recognized the form of the child's mother. "Excuse me," Sarah called, her voice trembling slightly from anxiety and relief. "Are you okay? The boy is looking for you." The woman's eyes widened, but instead of a smile, they reflected fear, darting to the shadows behind her. "No, no, no. You can't be here," she shouted, her voice sharp and panicked. "Why?" Mike asked, stepping forward cautiously. "They're coming," the woman said, her voice lowering to a whisper. "They're looking for us." Sarah's heart raced again, but this time for a different reason. The woman shifted slightly, revealing the small child bundled in her arms, clutching the edges of a blanket, the same soft fabric that Sarah had seen the boy with earlier. "Is that?" "Yes." The mother sprang to her feet, trembling. "We need to go. Now." Fear coursed through Sarah, flickering into something deeper, compassion. She instinctively considered the little boy and his missing mother, the reflection of pain echoing between the two women. "Wait. Tell us what's happening," Laura said urgently. "There's no time," the woman insisted. "You don't understand. It's not safe. Please, just run." In the moment, they stood on the precipice of decision. Help them find safety or protect themselves? Sarah felt torn. This was her community, her fellow beings in distress, but the warning in the mother's eyes was too clear to ignore. "Sarah, we shouldn't," Laura started, but Sarah couldn't back down. Something was stirring within her, a mute understanding that connected her to the fear and urgency radiating from the woman. "Let us help her," Sarah declared firmly. "We can't just walk away." Before any protests could rise, Sarah extended her hand toward the mother. "Please, trust us. We can get you both out of here." The woman hesitated, her gaze shifting between Sarah and the entrance to the alley, her breath quickening in the quiet tension of the moment. "Just a moment," the mother finally replied, her voice softening as she took Sarah's hand. "Please, just hurry." But as they stepped deeper into the alley, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed eerily through the shadows. Each echo sent an icy shiver down Sarah's spine. "Who's coming?" she whispered, her resolve flickering. Just then, shadows loomed large behind them. The chase had begun. Would they escape into safety, or was this the point where everything would change? The moment hung in the air, thick with fear. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest as she felt the woman's grip tighten around her hand. The footsteps behind them grew louder, closer. Somehow, the sound felt menacing, a cold reminder of the danger surrounding them. "Run!" Laura shouted, breaking the silence that had gathered. Without waiting for a response, they took off, Sarah leading the way, tugging the mother along as the little boy nestled close against her chest. Each step was a desperate race against time. They turned a sharp corner, the light from the festival flickering just ahead. Sarah could feel her muscles scream, but the sound of those footsteps drove her forward. The alley stretched out, whispering secrets of escape, while shadows flicked and darted across the walls around them. "Where do we go?" Mike shouted, glancing back nervously. "Just keep running," Sarah yelled, determination fueling her voice. Those heavy footsteps loomed like a dark cloud following them. Fear clawed at her throat as she glanced back, seeing three figures emerging from the shadows right here. The mother cried, spotting a small door slightly ajar. They skidded to a halt, heartbeats echoing in their ears. "Should we go in?" Laura asked, her eyes wide. "Yes," the mother urged, her voice shaking with urgency. Quickly, please. The door felt cool against Sarah's palm as she shoved it open. They spilled into a dimly lit room, cluttered with forgotten objects, a forgotten sanctuary amidst the chaos. Inside, the air was stale yet held a curious kind of hope. Sarah quickly surveyed the small space for any means of further escape. With the door now closed, the sounds of the festival were muffled, the chaos outside only a whisper. The mother crouched down, gently laying the boy on the floor and wrapping the blanket tighter around him. Her hands trembled, fear still etched across her face. Thank you for coming," she whispered, looking up at Sarah with tear-filled eyes. "What is happening?" Laura pressed, kneeling beside them. "Who is coming?" They work for someone," the mother stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know how they found us. This isn't about just us. It's so much bigger." Sarah felt the pit in her stomach grow. She could sense a storm brewing, and it wasn't merely the fear of pursuit. "What do you mean?" Just then, the sound of a loud bang echoed against the door they had just entered through, shuddering under the impact. Panic surged through Sarah as adrenaline kicked in once more. "Get back!" Mike called, edging backward, his eyes wide with alarm. "Stay low!" Sarah hissed. They huddled close together, instincts mingling with an unwavering determination. The mother tightened her grip on her child, shielded by the fabric of her desperation. The pounding grew louder. "They're coming!" The mother cried, her voice shaky, but she pointed at the small window covered loosely with dust-laden curtains. "We have to get out through there." "Can we?" Laura asked, searching for any trace of hope beyond the window. "I can lift him." The mother insisted, her voice now fierce. Without missing a beat, Sarah leaned toward the window. Glass crunched softly as she pushed the frame upward, the fresh air flooding in. "It could be our only way out." But just as they began making their move, that familiar, chilling voice echoed from behind the pounding door, low and authoritative. "I know you're in there. We can do this the easy way or the hard way." The breath caught in Sarah's throat. They had only seconds to decide. "Let us go," she urged, stuffing herself through the window, oblivious to the danger lurking behind them. She reached back for the little boy and his mother. "You're next." Every moment felt weighty, every heartbeat a race against time. Would they slip through the cracks of fate, escaping the heaviness of their pursuers? Or would that chilling voice mark their journey's end? As they vanished into the night, reality loomed ahead, urging them deeper into the unknown. The night began to shift around them, the shadows fading into the warmth of the festival lights as Sarah dropped to the ground, her heart pounding. They landed in a quiet corner behind the towering stacks of hay that had been set up for seating earlier. The remnants of laughter and celebration floated from the festival, but for Sarah and her group, it felt like a distant memory now. "Is everyone okay?" Sarah whispered urgently, scanning the faces around her. The mother cradled her child, both appearing shaken but alive with gratitude. Laura and Mike stood close by, their expressions serious that a gnawing anxiety bloomed in Sarah's chest as she listened to the muffled sounds of the festival. "We need to get out of here," she urged, rising to her feet and glancing back toward the dim alley they'd escaped. The sounds of footsteps echoed just beyond, but they seemed to fade away, swallowed by the warmth of the looming community. "I can't keep running." "Not like this," the mother stammered, her voice choked with emotion. "I don't know how long they'll stop searching." "Just a little longer," Sarah encouraged, her determination igniting a flicker of hope among them. "Let us find a way to blend back in with the crowd. Together." Yet as they peered back toward the gathering, Sarah felt the weight of their reality press down like rain on a sunny day. The festival was a beautiful display of unity, but danger lurked at its edges, in the shadows of their newfound hope. Would they ever escape its grasp? As they slipped past the stacks of hay, Sarah spotted Rebecca across the festival ground, chatting animatedly with a group of friends. Her friend's familiar laughter stirred a deep longing in Sarah's heart. She knew their community was woven with strength, each thread vibrant and essential. They had shared both laughter and tears, but what happened when darkness threatened the light? "Look, up ahead." Laura pointed to staggered booths filled with joyful chatter. Children played games, and families enjoyed the spirit of the festival. But their lives felt distant from this life of celebration. "Stay low, move quickly," Mike whispered as they sidled through the crowd, sticking close to the booths as they went. While weaving between happy smiles and humming laughter, Sarah felt the warmth of hope blossoming within her heart. Each connection formed would build a bridge to safety and understanding. They maneuvered past tables piled high with colorful pastries, the enticing aroma enveloping them like a hug. In the chaos, Sarah caught snippets of joyous conversations, voices rising with exuberance for felt connection. "Taste this pie," a vendor called out, handing an excited child a plate. For a moment, the thrill of life ignited a spark of joy in Sarah, but then came the cold reminder of her purpose. Over there near the fountain. Sarah gestured toward a quieter spot where people lingered, laughing but unbothered. "We can blend in there." With determined strides, they edged toward the fountain, hoping to carve out a moment of refuge. Just as they were about to reach it, cries rang out in the air, shouts surging forward like ripples in a pond. "There they are!" someone cried, and Sarah's heart jolted. "What is happening?" Laura asked, her eyes wide, but before they could process the words, Sarah felt a familiar pull, one that came from a place deeper than her fear. "We can't lose hope," she declared, stepping forward with conviction as the crowd began to disperse in rapid movement toward the emerging commotion. "Stand tall. Let us show them we're not afraid." Her voice caught like a burst of sunlight through the clouds, urging the others to push through together. The unseen threat was real, but so was the strength they carried as a community. In that moment, Sarah decided she wouldn't let fear dictate their path. They would stand strong. Together, the group found an opening near the fountain, and Sarah raised her voice above the noise. "Everyone, we're here. We are one community, and we have stories to share." Her words soared across the space, igniting others while rallying a circle of understanding around them. Laughter began to return, and people turned to face them, curiosity lighting their expressions as reality and emotional resilience began to mend. There was a flicker of recognition in Mr. Thompson's eyes as he stepped forward, no longer a shadow, but a forming part of the light. "I see you, Sarah," he called, his voice steady, framed by familiar faces. "Let us hear those stories. We can rise together." "Together." Sarah echoed, feeling the pulse of her heartbeat unifying with those around her. As the voices melded into a beautiful chorus of community, the tiny boy's laughter crawled back into her memory, reshaping their collective future. In that moment, despite the chaos they had endured, a wave of transformation washed over the crowd. Love stitched them into one, each story a reminder of resilience, each face a mirror reflecting hope, and as the festival burst back to life, the walls of uncertainty crumbled away, revealing a horizon painted with the promise of brighter tomorrows. Meanwhile, the mother smiled through tear-brimmed eyes, wrapping her arms tightly around her child, finally feeling safe. Sarah knew this wasn't the end, but the beginning of a journey toward healing and connection that they would all travel together. As the sun dipped low, casting a golden glow across Maplewood, she realized the strength that lay in unity. With her heart soaring, she whispered back to the universe, "Let us embrace what lies ahead, but first, let us spread the word." If you felt moved by this story and want to hear more uplifting tales, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support and keep the magic going. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let others see this transformation. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about the ending. Your voice matters, and don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this message. Together, we can all inspire change.